Rabbi. I wanted to speak about what we started yesterday. We didn't get a chance to really finish, but anyway, it's an interesting thing, that we find written in Shema Gedolim, which is the book of the Chidah, right? You know who was the Chidah?
No. Yes.
Rabbi David Yosef Chaim Azulai. Right? He was from Morocco. Right? Big Chacham, right? And then he moved to Eretz Israel also. Later on he became Israeli, made Aliyah in the end, right? So where is he buried? He's buried in Har Menuchot in Eretz Israel, in Yerushalayim. That's where he's buried. So they moved him over. Okay. So anyway, right, this is the rabbi that we're talking about. He's one of the big achronim, of the Sefardim, one of the big chachamim of the Sefardim, Rabbi Chidah. So he writes something interesting, that he says if a Sefardi comes, and does something minhag of the Ashkenazim, like the Ramah, he does like Ashkenazim, right? So what's his din? So says the Chidah, he needs kapara and teshuvah on Yom Kippur for this, that he did like Ashkenazim, So that's why, a person has to be careful. Sometimes I speak to some people in the community here, and I tell them, why do you do this? Why do you do this? This is not the Sephardi way. I tell them, they tell me, well, yeah, but I like to do some, a little bit like this, a little bit like that, a little bit Hasidi, a little bit Breslev, a little bit, this. I like all kinds of things, Smorgasbord, like a buffet, like this, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's the way they like to do, some people, The truth is that the Chidah writes that this is not kosher, to behave like this. A person who has Sephardi, from his parents, from his forefathers, has to do everything Sephardi, and if he does like Ashkenazim, so he needs to do teshuvah on this, the Yom Kippur, he needs kapara, he needs to be forgiven by Hashem, that he doesn't do according to the Sephardim. So there's a lot of things, that a person has to know about this. There's a lot of rules and all kinds of things, What about the other way around, by the way? What about if the Ashkenazi, he does like the Sephardim? Same thing? It is the same thing, really, It's the same thing. If you're Ashkenazi, you have to do like Ashkenazim. That's the way it is, You're not allowed to do like Sephardim.
Wait a second. If I'm Sephardi, I'm doing something like Ashkenazi, I understand.
Right.
Saying it's a sin.
Yeah.
But, so it means that our tradition is better than theirs. So now if they do like us, they're supposed to be like a mitzvah.
Ooh. Okay, he's saying something interesting there. So the truth is, you're right, it's better, you're right, this is true, but that's not the thing, The thing is that since your forefathers had this minhag, you have to keep it, Better, no good, yes good, who are we to judge, these things, Good, no good. Whatever your forefathers did, you do, that's the way it is, So that's why it doesn't really, doesn't really matter.
There is a problem. Among the Bukharians, the Chabad influenced a lot of during the diaspora of Uzbekistan.
Yeah, he's right, that's what he's saying, he's right, The Chabad came in, this is a very big thing, by the way. And not only with the Bukharians, everywhere this happened. Chabad came into Morocco. Chabad came into Bukhara. Chabad came into Georgia, Georgia also. They came there also. They came, And they were teaching Torah over there. Why were they coming? Why? For what reason? Why are they coming? We don't have our own rabbis. Why do we need them? That's my question, Why do we need them for? What the answer is? Because I'm sorry. 24/7. Always ready, as they say. Always ready. They're always ready. Okay. So that's good. I like that. But anyway, right, the truth is, the reason why they were coming is because there were times, in history where we didn't have good rabbanim, strong rabbanim in our community. And they had to come, to help. Because our rabbis, were amaretz, not so knowledgeable, And somebody had to come and make some seder, make order, over there, to be a leader, to teach Torah. That's the reason why they were coming, It's our fault. It's not their fault, It's our fault because we didn't have good chachamim. This is what happened.
No leader. Okay.
No leader. Yeah, no leaders. That's the problem. So that's why they were coming. They were also coming, by the way, from the other side. Lithuania. Ashkenazim. Also Rabbanim coming from there to teach also. Like I know in the Bukharian community, right? There's one family of Kohanim, and they're Ashkenazim. They're not Sefardim. You know what I'm talking about? The family that were found in the Bukharian community.
We're talking
Kohanim. They come from, but they come from Ashkenazim, and they stayed in Bukhara, and they were teaching there a long time, several generations,
Ashkenazim doesn't have a Kohanim.
Of course they have.
They have, why not? Yeah, they have, sure, they have.
Who doesn't have Kohanim? You said
Prime
Jewish.
Bukharian,
I'm sorry?
prime Bukharian Kohanim families, the Multano family that come from Yemen.
Right.
I'm sure there is.
So, I just remember the name. You know what the name was? Rabin. This is the family. It was in Bukhara. They were Kohanim. They came from Ashkenazim. Rabin. And we still have today Bukharian rabbis with the name Rabin. We still have this. You know that, right? I'm telling you. So they're Ashkenazim. They're not Sephardi. So they also were coming from the Lithuanian side to teach Torah. I myself, I have to tell you, myself also, my grandfather, was a Talmid Chacham. His name was Michael, just like me, Michael. Same name. And he learned in Georgia, right over there was one rabbi who came from the Ashkenazim. His name was Rabbi Abraham Chawalis, from the Lithuanian, He came over there to Georgia, and he taught over there Torah, and my grandfather was his Talmid. Can you imagine? Yeah, he was his Talmid, yeah. So they were spreading Torah over there, Ashkenazim, coming over and spreading Torah. But the thing is, nevertheless, whatever, they came to spread Torah, but they're not allowed to change our minhagim. They're not allowed to do that. Even though they did it sometimes. Sometimes they did it, You know why? Because they think, we're the best, Nobody like us, right? Everybody thinks like that, We all think we're the best, If you ask a Bukharian Jew, right? Ask him, you know what he's going to tell you, right? Bukharian Jews are the real Jews, They're the real Jews, Everybody else is second class. That's the way they say, That's the way it is. Everybody likes their own community the best. They think they're the best, Okay, that's good, Baruch Hashem. You should be proud of your community. It's good. Nothing wrong with that, It's a good thing, But the thing is, that anyway, right, whatever you think is the best or not the best, but you have to keep the minhagim of your forefathers, This is the thing, So even if your Rebbe was Ashkenazi, and we all, all of us, a lot of us here, the rabbis of this community here, a lot of them learned by the Ashkenazim. And also me, same thing. I also started with them, So I also had Ashkenazi rabbis, when I was in my younger days. And, but you know what it is? I never changed my customs, I never said, I'm going to do like them. I want to be like them. What do you mean you want to be like them? You're not allowed to do that. Even though he was your Rebbe, he taught you Gemara, he taught you Torah, it doesn't matter. Your minhag is Sfani. What difference does it make? There's no difference, Unfortunately, what happens like this, I have to tell you, the Ashkenazim, they like to do this, What can we do, right? That's the way they are. They like to say, to the Sephardi students who come to the yeshivot, their yeshivot, Lakewood, places like this, right? They tell them, if you want to learn over here, you have to do everything like our customs, our minhagim. That's what they tell them. You want to be here? 100%, everything like us. Right? We don't want here two minhagim, one like this, one like that. We don't want that. They don't want, So they tell the Talmidim. By the way, one of the rabbis over here also, I'm not going to mention his name. I don't want to talk about him, but he also had the same thing, So what happened was he was learning Ashkenazi yeshiva in Eretz Israel. So he liked Ashkenazi, He was like, oh, Ashkenazi, good, it's good, I like that. Oh, so he wanted to switch, to be Ashkenazi, So what happened? He told me, by the way, he himself told me. He went to Maran Rav Danielov. He was still alive at that time, it was a long time ago. 50 years ago, whatever, I don't know. Right? He went to Maran, and he asked him, am I allowed to switch to be Ashkenazi? Maran told him, what are you, crazy? You don't have to do that, that's what are you talking about? I mean, that's, you can't switch, Even though you learn Ashkenazi yeshiva, you cannot switch. Where does it say this, by the way? The truth is, this comes from the Talmud, these sugyot. These things come from Talmud. The person has to keep the minhagim of his forefathers. It's in the Talmud. It's not something we just say, oh yeah, I think, no, not what you think. It's in the Talmud. It's written like this, Not allowed to switch your minhag. So a person has to know that, that everybody has to keep his minhagim, and that's the best way, by the Baruch Hashem. And this way everything will be good. But there's also another thing, which is that, what about when a woman gets married, right? One is Ashkenazi, one is Sephardi, right? Couple, No. So we already said, right, that yesterday we mentioned that it goes according to the minhag of the husband, So even though the wife is Ashkenazi or whatever, right? If the husband is Sephardi, is Bukhari and whatever, so they have to keep the customs of the Sephardim. That's the way it is, Yeah.
About that, one question. Usually Ashkenazim take a boy in his family. Sefardim take girl to their family. So
Okay, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But he might be changing his opinion later.
Right. So the truth is, there are some people who like to change, but the truth is, and the emet, right, it always goes like the husband. That's the way it is, No, you're not allowed to move around with that. But the thing is, the husband also has to be smart. What is that? What do I mean by that? If you marry an Ashkenazi girl, it's going to take her time to adjust, to your minhagim, So what do you think? In one day she's going to change everything? It doesn't work like that. It's a habit already, It's habitual. So give her some time, to adjust, Don't start now looking at her like a policeman, like this, You go crazy, They don't have to be crazy like that. Don't go crazy, Take it slow, nice and easy, Easy does it, right? No reason to fight about these things, Just go easy, gentle, Have patience. Everything will fall into place, Bezat Hashem. That's the way it is.
I have a question. If she living with you in Sefardim and everything is fine, she learn your style, but now she goes to mama's house.
Right.
Now what?
Yeah, so, she still has to do like the husband, It doesn't change anything. Just because she went to her parents, it doesn't change nothing. But you know what it is, sometimes it's going to be a little bit different, a little like this. It's okay, not the end of the world, We're not going to kill anybody for these kinds of things, It's not the end of the world. Something interesting I want to tell you though, right? What about the issue of tefillot, right? Tefillah, right? So here it's a little bit different, than everything else. Why do I tell you this? Because there are some Ashkenazi big chachamim, big chachamim with Ashkenazim. They realized, because they were smart, very clever, that the pronunciation, of the Sefardim is better than theirs. They realized. Theirs is like, not so good, It got distorted because they went to Europe, far away from Eretz Israel, So they start to say all kinds of strange things, Different accent is very strange with the, all kinds of strange things. It's not the emet like this, to speak like this. That's the thing. So there are some chachamim, who was, I'll give you a couple examples, right? There was Rabbi Natan Adler, who was the rabbi of the Khatam Sofer, big chacham. And he switched, to Sephardi, the tefillot. He did everything like Sephardi. He even brought, like they say, that he bought a chacham, from Turkey, And he sat there 3 years teaching him how to do everything Sephardi. The prayers, the tefillot, how to pray Sephardi. Yeah, the pronunciation, the higui, right? We call that, right? In Hebrew. Pronunciation, all the things, So can you imagine this rabbi, he had a keilah, and he was always going up to be Chazan and praying Sephardi, and nobody else was able to go up except him. Why? Because he wanted everything to be Sephardi, Sephardi pronunciation. Rabbi Natan Adler, he was a big gaon, this guy, he was a big chacham. There was also Rabbi Pinchas Levi Horowitz, right? We call him the Hafla'ah, right? He was an Abbed Din, in Germany. And he also did the same thing, just like this guy, same. This one was in Hungary. This one was in Germany. So therefore, Maran Rabbi Danielov, when he heard about these things, he said that if a person wants to do that, Ashkenazi, to pray like the Sefardim, to say, the pronunciation, he can do that. Why? Because this is the emet, that's what it is. It's not, their minhag is not, the way they pronounce is not the emet. That's what it is, So going from, not emet to emet, it's a good thing, Baruch Hashem. So nothing wrong with that, So in things like this, sometimes we do allow. Same thing, what about also, I want to tell you one more thing, we go for David. What about when you go to Eretz Israel? What happens over there, right? So I'll tell you something interesting, That Eretz Israel, from the time the second temple was destroyed, it was always a Sephardi country. Always. They didn't allow Yehudim Ashkenazim, to come into Eretz Israel. They didn't allow them. They would see them, on the border. They would say, you Jewish? Right? What are you talking about? They didn't believe that they were Jewish, because they have blue eyes, blonde hair. Yeah. They didn't believe they were Jewish, So they wouldn't let them in. So until the Ottoman Empire fell, and the British came in, the Ashkenazi Jews were not allowed to come into Eretz Israel. This is what happened, you understand? And then they started to come in. Who was the first ones to start to come in? It was the Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov and the Gra, Gaon Mevilna, right? They started to come in. They were the first ones. And then they started to build a little bit. Now it's like 50-50, in Eretz Israel. 50%. Ashkenazi, 50% Sephardi. 50-50. That's what it is. But in the old days, 200 years ago, it was all Sephardi. Everything was Sephardi. So now the question is like this: when you go to Eretz Israel, right? If you're Ashkenazi, do you have to switch to Sephardi? Because really, Eretz Israel is a Sephardi country. This is the question, So the truth is, the Ashkenazim, they had a bet din about this when they first came to Eretz Israel, and they made a bet din to make a psak halacha do they have to switch to Sephardi or not? You know? So the two of them voted not to switch. One of them voted to switch, you know, so they decided not to switch. So they stayed the way they are, you know, in Eretz Israel. But the truth is, you know, according to the bare bones halakha, according to what the man says in Avkat Rochel, in the book of Avkat, they have to switch. You know, whoever comes to Eretz Israel has to go like the Minhag of Eretz Israel. Minhag of Eretz Israel is Sephardi. That's the thing, you know. So, okay, Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen v'Amen. רבי חנן כשאומר, לעשה הקדוש ברוך הוא לא זלזל, לפיכך חיבר להם תורה וצור שמונה חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה ויאדיר.